we meet with poet, musician, and writer Tom Nixon at his place of work in Hyde Park to discuss his thoughts on modern day poetry, spoken word, and hip hop.
Yeah, so my name's Tom Nixon. I graduated from Leeds Beckett University last year, studying music production. I still make an awful lot of music. That's my big creative outlet. I'm quite a creative person. I run a magazine. Put a lot of gigs on, that kind of thing. I write a lot of poetry as well in my spare time. That's more of a therapeutic outlet than a creative one. And that's me. Yeah, the boundaries between spoken word and hip hop are blurring, but I think that's because there's never really been much of a boundary in the first place. But it's took a while for people to sort of notice that as much. And I suppose you look back to sort of my inspirations of like Patti Smith, even if you go that far back, and her stuff, of how, you know, her spoken word poetry started as more like beat poetry, and then you end up, you know, getting her friends to put some guitars behind it, and the end, you know, it transforms into a band and something more musical. But that sort of, it is a thin line. It doesn't take much for it to then become sort of music. But then you go more modern into sort of today's world and it's not done as much. But you do have people like sort of Kate Tempest who are like trying to bring that sort of concept back a lot more and thinking about the message rather than the song. I wouldn't say I try to make my poems relatable. My poems are more for me, and as long as I can relate to them, that's enough. I think because being relatable isn't the main object, then I'm writing about things I relate to, but I'm just a person who's going through shit, and everyone goes through shit. So I think people will find that relatable. A lot of poetry that is out there is people venting and is people sort of getting past things. And then I realised I should try that, and that's sort of how I started that. But people should definitely give it a go. There's lots of other ways of doing it, but poetry is such a structured concept at the same time as being totally whatever you want it to be. What music and poetry are is they're like a standstill, like fraction of someone's life, how they were feeling at that exact moment, and then, you know, when it's the conception of the piece, and that's a really nice thing that you know, it's very nice as somebody who's wrote it, because for years to come you can go back to that and remember how you were at that time, even after moving on, and you can still have that nice response to it. And it's unusual to say, you know, you said you hear it in my stuff. I don't really share my poetry a lot, but it's kind of nice to show, you know, to hear that I'm obviously getting something out when I'm writing poetry, because you can hear it within the poetry. So that kind of proves that it's going in there. Poetry is definitely something I'd recommend as a vent, as a process of people, you know, people should try. It's not for everyone. I tried a lot of things that people recommended to me before I kind of came across doing poetry more on my own than anything. My sort of poetry is just me in my room with my typewriter. I do it in that way because that's the way I like to do it. Sometimes if I'm not in my room and I'm elsewhere, I'll write on my phone. It's whatever's necessary at the time, but regardless of that, it's mine and it's what's necessary for me. And whether I'm out with friends or whatever, if I get that sort of, I need to do that, it's still for me, even if I'm with other people. I'm generally not, but regardless, it's my thing, and I like it like that, because you've got to have that to keep you sane in a lot of ways.